AI didn't just appear out of nowhere. Behind today's smart machines lies a hidden story. Decades of breakthroughs that dazzled the world, crushing failures that nearly killed the field, and shocking comebacks nobody saw coming. It's a story with twists, betrayals, and moments so unbelievable, they sound like science fiction. So let's rewind the clock and uncover how we went from clunky chess programs to machines that can write novels, paint masterpieces, and maybe, just maybe, outthink us one day. Part 1. The origins of AI. Artificial intelligence as we know it didn't just pop up in the 2020s. It began as a bold idea in the 1950s. The question on everyone's mind, can machines think? One of the first people to wrestle with this was Alan Turing, the mathematician who cracked the Nazi Enigma code during World War II. In 1950, he proposed what's now known as the Turing test. His idea was simple but revolutionary. If you talk to a machine and it can fool you into thinking it's human, then maybe it really is intelligent. That question, how do we measure thinking, is still at the core of AI research today. Engagement nugget. In 1951, a researcher named Christopher Strachey created a program on the Ferranti Mark I computer that could play checkers. Think about that. The world's first video game opponent was actually one of the earliest AIs. A few years later, at the Dartmouth Conference of 1956, scientists officially coined the term artificial intelligence. It was here that pioneers like John McCarthy, Marvin Minsky, and Herbert Simon dreamed about machines that could solve logic problems, translate languages, and maybe even simulate human learning. And here's the wild part. Those dreams weren't just talk. By the early 1960s, an IBM program named Shoebox could understand 16 spoken words, making it one of the first speech recognition systems. Imagine how futuristic that felt in an era where most people still used rotary phones. Another nugget. In 1966, Joseph Weizenbaum at MIT created Eliza, a chatbot that mimicked a psychotherapist. All Eliza did was repeat or reframe what people typed, but users poured out their feelings, convinced the machine understood them. That single program showed two things. Machines could simulate conversation, and humans are quick to emotionally connect with them. Sound familiar? It's the same reason millions today treat ChatGPT or Siri almost like digital companions. So while these early systems were simple compared to today's AI, they set the foundation: games, language, speech recognition, and conversation. The same pillars that power modern AI assistants, voice tech, and even your phone's autocomplete, all trace their DNA back to these experiments. Part 2. The first AI winter. By the late 1960s, AI had made a splash. Machines were playing games, solving logic puzzles, and even simulating conversation. The hype was sky high. Some researchers boldly predicted we'd have human-level AI within 20 years. But then, reality set in. The problem? Computers at the time were far too weak. Memory was measured in kilobytes, not gigabytes. Algorithms that seemed promising on paper completely crumbled in practice. Governments and universities began asking, why are we funding this if it's going nowhere? One infamous example was the Automatic Language Processing Advisory Committee, ALPAC, report of 1966. The US government had been funding machine translation, hoping to instantly convert Russian into English during the Cold War. But the systems kept producing gibberish. Instead of, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. One program hilariously translated it back into Russian as, the vodka is good, but the meat is rotten. After years of failure, ALPAC slammed the brakes, declaring progress disappointing. Funding collapsed overnight, and machine translation research stalled for decades. Another stumbling block? Vision. Researchers thought it would be easy for computers to recognize objects. A project called the Summer Vision Project at MIT in 1966 tried to get a machine to identify shapes in a room. The idea was to solve it in 3 months. Instead, they discovered that what seems simple to humans recognizing a chair or a cat was incredibly complex. That overconfidence became a cautionary tale. By the 1970s, optimism had evaporated. AI programs struggled with basic tasks, and funding agencies in the US and UK pulled support. The British government even issued a report bluntly saying AI had failed to achieve any of its major objectives. Researchers left the field, labs shut down, and the media dubbed it the AI winter. But here's the twist. While the public thought AI was dead, the field wasn't completely frozen. Small groups of researchers kept tinkering in the background, laying the quiet groundwork for the breakthroughs to come. The world thought the story was over, but really, it was just on pause. Part 3: The Quiet Revolution. After the first AI winter, you'd think the field was finished. But in the 1980s, something surprising happened. AI didn't roar back with flashy robots or futuristic breakthroughs. It snuck back in through the side door. The heroes of this quiet revolution were something called expert systems. These were programs designed not to think like humans in general, but to act like specialists in one narrow field. The idea was, what if we capture the knowledge of experts and load it into a machine that can follow the rules step by step? Example: one of the most famous expert systems was Mycin, developed at Stanford in the 1970s and 80s. It was built to help doctors diagnose blood infections. Mycin could ask a series of yes/no questions: patient age, symptoms, lab results, and then suggest possible bacteria and recommend antibiotics. In tests, it often performed as well as, or even better than, medical residents. For the first time, people saw a glimpse of AI as a trusted advisor, not just a curiosity. Businesses jumped in fast. Corporations used expert systems to streamline manufacturing, detect credit card fraud, and even manage airline schedules. By the mid-1980s, AI was a billion-dollar industry again. Governments got interested too. Japan launched the fifth-generation computer project, a massive national plan to build super-intelligent machines that could use logic and reasoning like humans. It sounded like a sci-fi renaissance. But history repeated itself. Expert systems were powerful but brittle. They worked great in narrow, predictable domains. But the moment things got messy, new bacteria strains, unusual business rules, the systems failed. They couldn't learn like humans. They only followed pre-written rules. As complexity grew, maintaining them became a nightmare. By the late 1980s, companies realized these systems were too expensive and inflexible, leading to yet another funding collapse, a second AI winter. Still, not everything was doom and gloom. In 1997, a new milestone reignited hope: IBM's Deep Blue. This wasn't an expert system in the old sense. It was a blend of brute force computation and clever algorithms. Deep Blue went head-to-head against Garry Kasparov, the reigning world chess champion, in a historic 6-game match. Kasparov had beaten an earlier version the year before, but this time, the machine won. Kasparov was stunned. He later admitted he felt like he was facing something more than human. He even accused IBM of cheating because he couldn't believe a machine had bested him. But Deep Blue's victory was real. For the first time in history, a computer had conquered the world's best in a game synonymous with strategy and intellect. That moment didn't just make headlines. It sent a message. AI wasn't dead. It wasn't science fiction. It was evolving. Slowly, quietly, and sometimes clumsily, AI was getting smarter. And the world was about to give it the fuel it needed to truly take off. Data. Part 4: The Big Data Explosion. By the late 1990s, AI had proven it could win at chess, but it still wasn't part of most people's everyday lives. That all changed in the 2000s, thanks to something AI had always lacked: fuel. AI doesn't run on oil or electricity, it runs on data. And suddenly, the internet age was producing more data than the world had ever seen before. Every Google search, every photo uploaded to Facebook, every purchase on Amazon was a breadcrumb, and AI was learning to eat the whole trail. Search engines, Google. In the early 2000s, Google's PageRank algorithm was already AI-powered. It didn't just count how many times a word appeared. It used complex statistical methods to rank results by relevance. Every search you typed wasn't just answered. It trained Google to predict what millions of other people might want. E-commerce, Amazon. Amazon built its empire on an AI recommendation engine. Customers who bought this also bought. Wasn't just a catchy upsell. It was one of the most advanced personalization systems of its time. By the mid-2000s, up to 35% of Amazon's sales came directly from AI recommendations. Streaming, Netflix. Netflix, too, quietly turned into an AI powerhouse. In 2006, it launched the Netflix Prize, offering $1 million to anyone who could improve its recommendation algorithm by 10%. Hundreds of teams worldwide competed, and the result? By 2017, over 80% of the content people watched on Netflix wasn't chosen manually. It was chosen by AI. Netflix didn't just give you movies. It learned what kind of person you were based on your choices. Social media, Facebook or YouTube. And then came social media. Facebook's newsfeed wasn't chronological. It was curated by algorithms. YouTube's recommendation engine, launched in 2008, quickly became one of the most influential AIs on Earth. It learned what you clicked, what you skipped, how long you watched, and it built a profile of your interests. Within a few years, YouTube's algorithm was responsible for more than 70% of the site's watch time. In other words, AI wasn't just recommending videos. It was deciding what billions of people around the world would see, learn, and believe. Smartphones. And then came the smartphone boom. Apple's Siri, launched in 2011, became the first mainstream AI assistant in people's pockets. It wasn't perfect, but it was the first time millions of people casually talked to AI every day. Google Assistant, Alexa, and Cortana followed, normalizing the idea that machines could understand your voice. Engagement nugget. By 2012, something extraordinary happened. A Google Brain team trained a massive neural network on YouTube videos. Without being told what to look for, the AI spontaneously learned to recognize cats. Yes, the internet's favorite animal. That moment was bigger than it sounds. It proved AI could teach itself patterns without human guidance. And if it could do that for cats, what else could it do? So while most of us thought we were just searching, shopping, scrolling, and streaming, AI was quietly embedding itself into every corner of our lives. It wasn't a flashy robot invasion. It was a stealth takeover. And by the time most people noticed, AI was already running the internet. Part 5. AI Today, the boom. By the 2010s, AI wasn't just creeping back. It was exploding. The old, brittle expert systems of the 80s were gone. In their place came something new: deep learning. Instead of hand-coding every rule, researchers built artificial neural networks with millions, later billions, of connections that could teach themselves by analyzing massive amounts of data. And this time, the timing was perfect. The world had smartphones in every pocket, social media pumping out endless streams of information, and powerful new graphics processors that could crunch all that data at lightning speed. Suddenly, AI had everything it had been missing: brains, fuel, and horsepower. Then the breakthroughs started coming one after another. In 2012, a Google team trained a giant neural network on YouTube videos. Without being told what to look for, the system discovered something entirely on its own: cats. That might sound silly, but it was the first proof that AI could identify complex patterns in the real world without human guidance. It wasn't following instructions anymore. It was learning. Only a few years later, in 2016, the world witnessed something that felt almost otherworldly. DeepMind's AlphaGo faced off against Lee Sedol, one of the best Go players alive. Go is a game so complex it was considered uncrackable for machines. Yet, in front of a stunned live audience, AlphaGo didn't just win. It shocked everyone, with moves that looked like mistakes at first, but later revealed themselves as strokes of genius. Commentators gasped. Sedol walked away from the table to compose himself. He later admitted it felt like playing against an alien intelligence. It was the first time a machine had shown creativity in a realm once thought untouchable, and the pace only quickened. In 2020, AI solved one of biology's grandest puzzles, protein folding. For decades, scientists struggled to predict how strings of amino acids twist into the 3D shapes that determine how life itself functions. DeepMind's AlphaFold cracked it, predicting the structures of over 200 million proteins in just months. What might have taken human researchers lifetimes, AI accomplished in record time. Biologists called it one of the greatest scientific breakthroughs of the century. But AI wasn't just living in research labs. It was slipping into daily life, often without people realizing it. Tesla's autopilot and Waymo's self-driving taxis put AI on the streets, dodging traffic cones and navigating city chaos. Doctors began using AI to scan medical images with superhuman accuracy, catching cancers invisible to the human eye. Spotify curated playlists that seemed to know your mood better than you did. Your phone unlocked with your face. Your camera could recognize your friends before you even tagged them. And then came the cultural earthquake. In late 2022, OpenAI released ChatGPT. In just 5 days, it had 1 million users. To put that into perspective, it took Netflix 3.5 years to hit the same milestone. ChatGPT was different from every AI before it, not because it was the most powerful, but because it was the most personal. For the first time, millions of ordinary people were talking with AI, and it was talking back, writing essays, brainstorming ideas, telling stories, answering questions, even cracking jokes. It wasn't perfect, but it was close enough to blur the line between tool and companion. For many, ChatGPT was the moment AI stopped being invisible algorithms behind the scenes and became a presence in their daily lives. The last decade hasn't just been about progress, it's been about acceleration. AI isn't creeping forward anymore, it's leaping. From mastering games no human could solve, to decoding the building blocks of life, to slipping into our pockets as a collaborator and assistant, AI is no longer waiting in the wings. And that leaves us with the biggest question yet. If this is what AI can already do, what comes next? Part 6, What's next? No one's asking if AI can do things anymore. The question is what we'll ask it to do next, and what it will start doing on its own once we point it in a direction. In hospitals, algorithms are already whispering second opinions, flagging suspicious specks on lung scans, measuring heart rhythms beat by beat, catching the tiny patterns a tired human eye could miss at 3 a.m. In labs, models trawl chemical space like deep-sea trawlers, hauling up drug candidates in days that used to take teams months. A few years ago, an AI even spotlighted a new antibiotic candidate after sifting through molecules humans had largely ignored. The message is clear. Discovery is speeding up. In classrooms, the old one-size-fits-all lesson is cracking. Early pilots show tutors that never get impatient and never run out of ways to explain photosynthesis or fractions. For a kid who fell behind 2 grades ago, that's not a novelty, it's a parachute. And beyond the schoolyard, climate researchers feed AIs storms and centuries of weather to sharpen forecasts, optimize grids, and sketch materials that might store more energy or waste less heat. Not magic, just math, at a scale we couldn't reach before. But progress doesn't only build, it rearranges. Whole workflows are getting unbundled. Some jobs shrink, others morph. New ones appear with titles we haven't coined yet. A lawyer drafts a brief with an assistant that never sleeps. A designer iterates 10 moods in a minute. A small business runs on automation that used to require a back office. For many, it feels like leverage. For others, it feels like the floor moving. And there's the part that makes your stomach drop. The copy machine for reality. Voices cloned in seconds. Faces puppeteered frame by frame. Entire narratives spun out of thin air that look real enough to spark outrage before anyone checks. When any image or audio can be faked, and any real one can be called fake, trust itself becomes fragile. So the race isn't just to build smarter models, it's to build better brakes. Safety teams probe systems for failure modes. Audits and watermarking try to mark what's synthetic. Policymakers, often 2 steps behind, try to catch up without snuffing out what could save lives. The conversation is messy, open versus closed, fast versus careful, but it's finally happening in the daylight. The rise of AI has always been our story in disguise, our curiosity, our overconfidence, our course corrections, our refusal to quit. The next chapter isn't pre-written by the machine. It's drafted by the choices we make about where to aim it, when to say no, and who it's for. If the last decade was AI stepping onto the stage, the next is us deciding what role it plays. Tool or partner, microscope or megaphone, lifeline or liability. The technology will keep getting better. The real plot twist is whether we do. AI has always been more than just code. It's a mirror of us, our curiosity, our ambition, our mistakes. From clunky checkers programs in the 50s to systems that decode the very building blocks of life today. It's been a story of dreaming big, falling short, trying again, and then suddenly leaping further than we thought possible. And now, we stand on the edge of the most exciting chapter yet. What if AI becomes the doctor that saves lives before symptoms appear? The teacher that finally gives every student a fair chance. The scientist that cracks problems we've struggled with for centuries. That's not fantasy anymore, it's in reach. But there's another what if. What if AI replaces more than it empowers? What if deepfakes erode our trust in truth itself? What if systems grow so complex, we don't just lose control of the tools, we lose control of the narrative? That's the tension of our moment, the thrill of possibility, and the weight of responsibility. Every breakthrough comes with the same question. Not just what can AI do, but what should AI do? This isn't a story written by machines. It's written by us, by the choices we make, the guardrails we set, and the imagination we dare to follow. The rise of AI has already reshaped our world. The future? That's still being drafted. So maybe the real question isn't whether machines will outthink us one day, it's whether we'll be ready when they do. The story of AI isn't over. It's only beginning. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the rise of AI, hit that like button. It really helps. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this, and drop a comment below. Do you see AI as humanity's greatest tool or our biggest threat? I'd love to hear your take. Until next time, stay curious.